Hello and welcome back. So today we're going to take a closer look on how I rehoused my danelectro pedal. I had two of these, one chorus and one overdrive. And the overdrive broke. Don't ask me how I did it. I don't know what I did. Somehow I just broke the plastic enclosure and the back fell off and it's just a mess. And so I rehoused it. This is what it looks like now. And I'm going to show you how I did it. Now, I recommend if you want to make pedals that you start off by building kits. It's a lot more fun and interesting, I think. But unlike a Behringer pedal, this is actually kind of easy. And so I hope I can show you. It's just a couple of wires that needs new places to go. And you also need to drill an enclosure. So we're going to take a closer look and hopefully I'll be able to tell you what I did. And so you can do this too if you wanna. Okay, so first, before we get started, you'll need an enclosure. And you need to drill holes. I already have a video on how you drill holes. All you really need to do is make sure that you don't drill holes where things will be in the way. So keep the two switches. For example, if you have two switches, if you have 3 or 4, it doesn't really matter. Try to keep them away from the middle as much as possible so that you have space. And the same thing with the switch and the 2 output jacks. Try to keep everything so that you have a lot of space in the middle. You could also just use a bigger enclosure, but I kind of like the idea of fitting as much as possible into a small enclosure as possible, if that makes any sense, I hope. If you're wondering on how I did this thing, I basically just removed this from the old pedal and I super glued it here on the pedal. I measured out where it would be the middle and the angle and everything so that it would be in its right place and not crooked or anything. Super easy to do. I also put a little sticker of a fruit because I felt like it's food, should have something food related. And I thought that little sticker looked cute. Then I coated the entire enclosure with resin to keep everything in place because I don't want to knock this off when I'm stepping on the pedal or anything like that. I want to have it stay there. I have a tiny little thing that holds this in place. If you wonder, it's just off right now because we're going to open this up and I don't want that in the way for that. Anyway, so I have a video on how to drill an enclosure. It's not for this pedal, it's for another one, but that's just the way you do it. You have to think about things like a new output jack and things like that, because these pedals, they have plastic in and outs for the cables and the attachment for the power is inside on the circuit board and it will also be removed. So now let's open this up and see what I actually did. So when you open up your pedal and you're gonna start rehousing it, you'll see this. You'll have a battery compartment here, and that's where the screw that holds the back on goes. And here you see the first circuit board. There are tiny little screws here, and they're all different, so they, depending on what pedal you have, it will look a little bit different, but there'll be tiny little screws that holds the first circuit board in place, and you have to remove it. This circuit board is just, it's a buffered bypass, and so you have to decide if you want to keep that in or remove it. For this video and what I've done is I've removed it. It's not hard to keep in if you want to have the buffer. It's just, it takes up a lot of space and it's kind of hard to get both of the 2 circuit boards to fit into an enclosure. And you're gonna have to get a bigger enclosure and not just 1 step up, probably like 2 or maybe even 3 steps up, because I have tried to fit all of this into a bigger enclosure and I didn't really manage to do that. I actually damaged the circuit board trying to do that and had to take out some components and replace them with new ones because I pushed things in too hard and they broke. But anyway, this is what you will see. There will be a couple of tiny screws. In this pedal it's 3. I think in my overdrive there were 4, but it really doesn't matter. You remove them and you take this part out. And that part looks something like this. Maybe not exactly like this. This is the one that I removed. Over here you will have the input jack for the power, the DC in. Since we're removing this, you don't have to remove these. But as I was trying to save the bypass, that's why they're removed for me. But you don't have to care about that. Here you will have the two input jacks. It doesn't matter because we're removing all of this. Just telling you because I removed them and switched them out for other ones because I wanted to keep this in at first. But then I changed my mind. Here you will have the connection for a ribble cable. And what you have to do is you just have to unplug this and then we can just put this to the side. I don't know what to do with it, if you can make some funny, crazy experiments with it and make a new pedal out of it or something other crazy. If you have any fun ideas, please let me know in the comments below. Anyway, this is what the pedal looks like on the inside now. This is the circuit board that you will find on the other side. It's gonna be kind of hard to show you guys, but you will have two tiny little pots sitting here, and they will have 3 legs. And what you have to do is you have to desolder them and put in cables that gives you more reach. So basically 6 little jumper cables. Then you just have to measure the pots, and you do that by holding your multimeter, which if you don't have a multimeter, you should have a multimeter. I know it's not a fun thing to have to spend money on, but if you're gonna build pedals or guitars or amps or anything like that, you're gonna need a multimeter eventually, so you might as well just bite the bullet and get one. They're not very hard to use. You'll get hang of it by messing around with them for like 10 minutes, and then a whole fun world will open up for you. And you measure them by holding one of the thingamajigs, the pokey things. They look like this. I don't actually know what they're called. If you know what they're called, leave a comment telling me, because I probably should know. You hold them to leg 1 and 3 and you'll get a value. You can also hold it from leg 1 and 2 and move the actual knob to see the values in between if you wanna, like, set some kind of value. But anyway, you just have to buy new pots to replace them and solder them together. And one cable to the same place the other one was attached. So basically, leg 1 to a cable that is attached to the new pot's leg 1, and so on. So just, you know, take a photo of how they were attached and just repeat. Usually you'll see slots for the legs in the back here. And so it's not very hard to just look at it and see. I know there's a bunch of cables in the way and it's a little bit messy, but that's just the way things are. There are also in the middle here that there are 2 holes that hold a ground connection. And all I've done is I've made a little jumper cable on the underside here. There's just a little jumper cable in between on both here. I hope that is explained well enough. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask and I'll do my very best to explain. But they're just jumper cables, nothing fancy or special. Okay, here, right down here, is where you'll have the ribble cable connection. And the first wire on the top will be a blue wire, and the second one will be a green. On my here, you can see that I have a white cable, but it will be a yellow one. That's because you're gonna have to replace these wires with longer wires, and I didn't have any yellow cables. And so I just took a white one. The colors doesn't really matter as long as you just look at the connections. Then you will have a connection in that I don't have, which you just remove entirely. And then there will be a red wire. And then the last connection will be a wire here. And you'll just remove that too. So blue, green, yellow, nothing, red, nothing is the connection you want to see here. And you just want to replace these wires so that there are not tiny little ribbon cables, because the cables you get in the pedal are really short and you need longer wires. So you're just going to replace them with longer wires and remove 2 of them. And then we're going to connect them to their places. Here we have the switch, and the red wire from the circuit will go to leg 1 over here. The blue one will go to the 3rd leg up here. We will have the white wire, or the yellow wire as it will look like, going into the middle. So that's the first row, and it's just the in and out signal through the pedal and a ground connection. We'll have a tiny little jumper from the first position to the middle on the third road. We'll have a jumper on the third road that just connects the last and first leg, like that. Now, just to make this super clear for you, if you look real close at these legs, they are flat on one side, and you want to keep the flat side down and the thin side to one of the sides. We will have a ground connection in the middle that goes to the LED, and we will have two connections on the outside of the middle, these two green wires that goes to the output jacks. Then we have a ground wire that connects both the jacks together. I am using a mono jack and a stereo jack because it makes things a little bit easier, but you can just put the other ground wire to the same lug if you wanna. So I have one ground wire that are these white ones because I've run out of black wires, going from the ground of this jack to the ground on this jack. And then I have another one on this jack going to the back here where I made the jumper cables. And it's just everything gets grounded basically. And then I have a jack here for the power in, and the tiny little black one goes to the LED, and the green one here, it goes to the green wire in on the board here. I hope this makes sense. Again, write a comment if it doesn't. The reason why I have a piece of tape here is because when I put this into the pedal, everything is a little bit too snug, and so it gets pushed up against the back of the input jack here, or output jack rather, and it can also accidentally touch the switch. And it's very easy for something to like short out that way, you know, you make a weird ground connection. It's the same reason why I also put on the back of the enclosure, I've put tape down. And this allows me to just, you know, put this on and clamp it down. I hope this made sense. Well, there you have it. I hope this helped. Let me know in the comments below if it did. If something didn't make sense to you, or if you felt like it was confusing somehow, please just leave a comment and I'll do my best to answer it. Don't be shy, even if you are. I'll do my best to answer. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up, and a subscription would help a lot. I appreciate it a lot. You don't have to if you don't want to. Until next time, stay awesome and cool and go and build something. Maybe a guitar pedal?